Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome again to Tea Time SEO. This week, we're talking about advanced e-commerce search engine optimization techniques, and I'm delighted to have an illustrious crew assembled here this afternoon who are going to share their wisdom, experience, pains, and pitfalls with you all. So please get your questions ready because they put a lot of work into these slides. It's going to be short, bite-sized, and punchy. So with me, I've got Carrie, as usual, moderating. And she will be looking after the questions, so feel free to file them in. And in no particular order, I've got with me Andrea Volpini, who is the CEO and co-founder of WordLift. Benvenuto, Andrea, all the way from Italy. Thank you so much for joining us. He knows more about graphs than Pythagoras, and we're looking forward to hearing him talk about product knowledge graphs today. After Andrea, we've got Vicky Golding. She is an SEO expert working for one of the leading London agencies called Built Visible, and she will be talking a lot about faceted search. So thank you, Vicky. And last but most certainly not least, all the way from New Jersey, is Greg Digneo, who runs his own content marketing agency, and he'll be tying it all together to tell us how to support content to drive e-commerce sales and traffic. So I'll let you guys do your own little intros, but I thank you again for all the effort you've put in sharing your know-how with our community. So Andrea, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks for this opportunity. I am co-founder and CEO of WordLift, and I've been focusing in the past year on creating product knowledge graph. And these are graphs that are meant to help search engine understand product details and also help us in automating some of the SEO task. I've been working on a demo with the team along with GenAI. This is a neural search framework in order to show you also how we can create a search experience inside the site. But I find it very helpful to build search engine in order to understand how Google works and how we should prepare the data and the content behind our products. So I have a few recommendations for you.
Perfect. Thanks, Andrea. I just, you want to kick us off, but first I think let Vicky do her intro.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. So thank you. I'm Vicky Golding. I'm an SEO consultant at Built Visible. I actually work within the tech department at the agency, and we specialize in organic search optimization.
Thanks, Vicky. And last but not least, Greg.
Hey, I'm Greg. I am the founder of a company called Content Guppy, and I'm extremely passionate about creating content that converts readers into buyers of your products.
Perfect. Okay, great. Okay, well, thanks for those intros. Andrea's going to take it away.
Cool. All right, so let's start with a few things that I learned in the past few years on e-commerce SEO. So data quality is essential, and that's it seems to be a bold statement, but really isn't. And just recently, Google has reinforced in the guides the importance of using unique product identifiers for all of our products. And it seems to be still difficult to gather these product identifiers that come in the form of GTN code or MPN code. But it is really essential for a machine to disambiguate one product and one variation from another. And this is really an important starting point. So we should try to understand the importance of building this metadata and making it available to search engine in order for them to present it to the end user. So that's tip number one. It's really data quality is essential. Never underestimate the importance of having all the data curated for your catalog, but most importantly, look for these unique product identifiers. They come in the form of UPN, MPN, GTN. These are standard organizations that create one unique code for every product. And when you start using them inside structured data, then you can see amazing results in most of the conditions. And tip number two. Now, when Google starts to bring popular products into the free listing, because in the end, e-commerce SEO has really changed since Google has opened the gate of the free listings with the popular products. Here we see quick diagram of what is called the product knowledge graph panel, which is a one-stop shop for users inside Google Search to traverse all the information about a product. How are these panels created? I mean, these are kind of the tip of the iceberg of the knowledge graph when it comes to product. But these are created by aggregating content related to a specific product. And these can be editorial, it can be a frequently asked question, it can be a video, it can be an accredited reviews on a magazine. So how do we help search engine kind of reconnect all the different pieces that we might have on different platforms? Because of course, most of us don't have like a CMS that also does the web content, or a blog platform that also does the e-commerce. So as this content is scattered across multiple platforms, we can use structured data and these unique identifiers for each entity to help the search engine understand that, hey, this is a video about that product, or this is an accessory for this other product. And I see that relationships are coming up on some of the large sites, but it's still very hard to find these kind of unique identifier being reused across the editorial sections of the site. But in reality, as we will probably see more with the presentation of Vicky and Greg, informational intent and transactional intent overlap. The customer journey is very much diversified, and we want to help machine in understand exactly what is belonging to what, and that's creating an important edge in your e-commerce strategy. So using unique ID, possibly in the form of linked data URIs, for all your products, independently of the platform that you're using. And tip number 3, we want to keep data in sync. So one thing that I learned also by speaking with someone in Google is that the data in the Google merchant and the data that we publish on the web page, it's used to check the consistency. So in order to create the confidence that a search engine needs to show the result, among the top K first results, we want to, consolidate the data, and we want to have, the same information that it's available in the Google merchant feed. This is an XML feed that we can send to Google to properly structure our offering, and inside our web page in the form of structured data. It seems obvious, but you don't know how many sites I find that have, one information on the product on the merchant feed, and a different information about the same product on the web page. And that's bad, because of course it doesn't create the confidence that is required for the re-ranking process to occur and for your pages to go up. So the basic idea of building this product knowledge graph. So what is a product knowledge graph? It's a graph of metadata that describes the products, okay? And we call it product knowledge graph because the core entity type, it's the schema product. Now, this helps, the search engine create the right search experience. And so we want to create this relationship between, let's say, one product and its accessories, or one product and the video reviews, in order for the search engine to be able to understand the context, because that's what Google does, that it's very difficult for every merchant to do, is keeping all of the context of the user. Google has this capacity of knowing the context. So we want to feed the machine with enough information in the form of relationship so that the context can be used for creating a rich user experience. So as we are moving more into this phygital world where the experience on the point of sale, of the physical point of sales, and the experience on the digital channels is converging, and pandemic has helped a lot in these. We need to start thinking about how do we do SEO for physical products, and what type of incentives can we create on the local store to make sure that we combine the possibility for the user to look at the product physically and then to buy it online. So in order to do so, we want to expand the possibility of searching and going into a multimodal way of looking at products. Now, this means that I can search a product with a query, but I can just take a photo of the product on the street and run the query, because maybe I'm inside the store and I want to look for the information on the e-commerce site just by taking a photo. So WordLift creates knowledge graph. And of course, for e-commerce, we build product knowledge graph. And now we're working with another company, which is called GeneAI, to create a new search experience. This is far from being ready, but I'm very excited to show you a quick prototype of what we're doing. And hopefully this will help us understand how a multimodal search engine like Google works. So I will quickly share my screen. And I will start with something simple, like fancy shirt for the summer. Okay, so this is kind of a semantic type of search. And here, the way in which the search engine works is by creating embeddings out of the product description and some of the attributes. Embeddings will make possible for the search engine to understand the query in a more natural way. But we can do also something completely different that starts with a different modality. So I will, in this case, open the photo gallery. I could also take a photo, and I could I will send an image for a pair of sunglasses, and then I will just use this UI for cropping the image of these pair of sunglasses. And then I will let the search engine find the product, not by using text, but in this case, by using the image. So the image is converted into embeddings. So we transform the image into numbers, and then these numbers are used to find similar products within this catalog. And then we can see that we can, of course, use the facets in order to drill down on these initial search. And so we can kind of get all the black glasses or and so on and so forth. We also use the voice, dark boots. So this is like the context in which we are, of course, in front of, yeah, that's not a good example. We got the query, but we need to refresh these. So we can use the voice and trigger the query, much like we've done in the beginning. And then, of course, we can refine it by adding either an image or by selecting any of the attributes that we have here. And then, of course, yeah, that's definitely not the results that we want to see. But that's kind of to give you the idea of what multimodality is and how multimodal search works. So we can start from a query, which can be added from a search box like this, or from the microphone, or we can start from an image, and then we can combine these queries, whether they're coming from voice or from the image or from the text, into one bigger query. And so here we have address, and again we can kind of look at address, and we can try to see if it's going to be recognized with some similar products. Cool. So that's pretty much all I have to share for you today. I mean, the importance is that if we start connecting the media, in this case, the images or the videos, with the description and the attributes inside a product knowledge graph, then we are able to create these, unique AI-driven experiences. Because behind the search engine, we have, a language model that analyzes the text. In this case, we're using a model called DistillBERT, which is a distilled version of BERT. And then we are using Clip by OpenAI, which is a model, transformer-based model that will convert images into text. And so we are able to understand the product by starting with the images. But if we look from the SEO point of view, all of these data needs to be there in the form of structured data or any sort of metadata so that it can be found by the search engine. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have for you today. Lawrence, you are muted.
I think it's my turn now.
That's
Thank
classic.
you.
Yeah.
Do you want me to just kick it off?
Yeah, I was just going to say thanks, Andrea, for showing us an early prototype of that. I mean, it's really good, and I can certainly see how it can advance certain, advance the experience for users. And I could see people wanting to, find me an outfit that goes with this, or find me accessories that go with this. I mean, it gives some really interesting applications for that. And certainly it ties in nicely to Vicky, who's now going to talk about faceted navigation and how you can use it for e-commerce success. So Vicky, take it away.
Thank you. Yeah, so very much. Yeah, so really I want to be talking about how you can use your faceted navigation in order to target your long tail keywords. I think the best starting point is just to familiarise ourselves with the intent behind the creation of faceted navigations. And really they were built out from a UX perspective in order to help consumers just discover products more intuitively. However, their inherent complexity can actually lead to a number of SEO issues. So that can include crawl inefficiencies, link equity dilution, content cannibalization, and over-indexation. And I think the propensity for these issues only increases because every possible facet combination is at least one unique URL. So how do we normally manage this kind of beast? Well, there's two typical ways. The first way, unfortunately, is when developers just leave the system completely open. And this can lead to a lot of the issues that I've just highlighted in the previous slide. So kind of like a alternative solution is by blocking the entire system. And that can certainly help to mitigate the risks, but I think it undervalues the potential that faceted navigations can offer. Excuse me. So, but that's particularly because websites might lack having specific pages that are needed to rank and fulfill certain search queries, particularly those that exist within the long tail group. Now, this is important because we know from all the research that's out there that up to 70% of organic searches actually fall within this category. They're long tail in nature. And so this, when we kind of take a step back, gives us a huge bucket of opportunity, not least because they typically fall towards the end of the conversion funnel. And if we think about how we normally target long tail keywords, I think we are still inclined to kind of fall towards the long form editorial style content. And I'm by no means saying that that doesn't have value. I think it really does. But that sort of copy or asset is actually kind of more synonymous with engaging users right at the beginning of their journey. So creating awareness and creating that initial interest. So what we need to do is kind of take it from a two-pronged approach. So utilize and create really well constructed content, but also to leverage the faceted navigation to help fulfill those additional conversions and drive revenue through the business. Now, you might be inclined to think that the industry giants out there, the ones that have huge domain authority, are naturally going to succeed at this. But as you can see from this example, that's not the case at all. And actually, this is where relevancy really kind of takes priority and really excels. So in this example, we've got David Bridle outranking the likes of Nordstrom. And there's two main reasons for that. The first one is because David Bridle actually has a better technical setup, but it also has well optimized category pages, which specifically target related keyword phrases. So in this particular example, I think it's actually on the next slide, we can see, thank you, we can see that David Bridle has a specific landing page focused on long sleeve wedding dresses, whereas your strong result is just relying on the top category wedding dresses. So we can see here that there's definitely opportunity. We can go to the next slide. Thank you. How do you achieve that? How do you get the success? So there's a number of steps that I'm going to go through with you now, which will explore that step-by-step process. So the first one should always begin with your keyword research and really harnessing that data set. And by doing that, what you should be able to do is start to identify the facet combinations that collectively provide notable search volumes and indeed revenue estimates. So on the table on the right-hand side, we can see that when someone's looking for a bra in this instance, it's typical that a consumer will use product type, color or material to distinguish their particular product of interest. You can go to the next slide, thank you. But actually the whole kind of possible combinations that are out there can just be quite overwhelming and will naturally cause your website to grow kind of extremely quickly and actually might be out of control at one stage. So what I always say is we need to manage the floodgates. That's so critical when you're considering opening up your facets. And that's why I always say to my clients is that if you're going to open up your facets, you need to do it into phases. So it's nice and controlled. You can see what's working and what's not working, and you can adapt your approach accordingly. So once you've identified the keyword opportunities, it's then really important to prioritize the sequence in which kind of the adjectives are predominantly selected. And by that, I mean, products can have over 5 distinguishable features, but in English, we actually only use kind of 4 adjectives to describe something. So by this, we need to then start to kind of identify where multiples coexist, but still meet the same search intent. And then you kind of need to look at kind of the natural language and work out which scenario provides greater value, relevance, and significance. So an example just there, it's actually more natural. It's actually more natural to say white cotton t-shirt, so therefore material, color, and product, than it would be to say white cotton t-shirt, for example. And so that sequence will be dependent on what products you actually are selling, but it's definitely worth consideration as well. So once you've got that, I also wanted just to say that it might be an idea to start kind of broadening your kind of focus and maybe to include where offers and customer ratings might be relevant. Now, you might think initially that this correlates with kind of the on-page filters, which just change the order of the product results, or it narrows it, and they typically are non-indexable, which is the way it should be. But actually, it depends on the customer that you're targeting. So, for example, Zen generation are very focused on monetary value. So they kind of would be more interested in looking for deals under £5 or £10, etc. So actually opening up a facet which is meeting that kind of criteria would be legitimate, and therefore you may wish to consider making them indexable. So there's a few nuances which you may want to put into your strategy, which will be totally legitimate, and I would recommend you to do that. But now's the kind of the third phase. So you've got your collective keywords and you've got kind of the sequence in which you want to make them appear. What you then have to do is to define the URL structure. So that means that it doesn't matter what order a facet is selected. You will always deliver the same landing page or listings page. And in that way, you can make sure that you're not having any cannibalization issues within the website. The other areas that we can look to control are listed on this particular slide. So what we want to try and do is avoid having thin pages or what could be considered doorway pages. And one way to do that is just by comparing the listings against your product offering. I've put here to include at least 5 products, but that's not a hard and fast rule. And it certainly is dependent on kind of the revenue potential from your product's listing. So if you are actually selling high-end products like a TV or something like that, you may still want to open a facet PLP, which has maybe 3 or 4 products in. But generally speaking, I try and aim for 5. You can also avoid additional internal competition by adding no index, no follow to the irrelevant combinations. And you also want to canonicalize any to the parent PLP as well. And then on this side, we can see that once you've got the pages created, what you just need to then do is do the standard on-page optimization, making sure that your target URL is featured within the main assets, so page title, breadcrumbs, content snippets, FAQ, if that's applicable. And that's what's been achieved on David Bridle. And then just very quickly, what you don't want to do is to have those new facet URLs exist as orphan pages. You want to make sure that they're accessible both by search bots and by crawlers, and they start to build up page authority. And there's a few ways that you can do that. So first one is to consider adding the new facet URLs into your existing facet navigation. You can also link to them via popular searches or related searches options on your category listing pages. You can certainly link to them via editorial content, so style guides and blogs. You can also add the facet URLs into your mega menu in order to gain the greatest link equity and drive the highest click-through rates. Make sure that they are included in your XML sitemap, and consider how your backlink strategy can start to target those URLs as well. And so finally, just wanted to summarize my points. So I would highly recommend you start to consider focusing on your mid and long tail keywords through leveraging your faceted navigation. And this will make sure that you're offering the most relevant search results, which will ultimately drive additional sessions, create the optimal UX, and drive additional revenue. But in order to deal with, but it's important, sorry, to deal with your relevant combinations, you have to optimize your new URLs and you have to drive link equity to them.
Hey, so I am absolutely obsessed with like optimizing for the buyer mindset and where they are in the customer journey. And so a guy named Chet Holmes, you may have heard of him, you might not have. He was a sales guy and really good sales trainer. And he said that 3% of your market is ready to buy from you right now. So in other words, in any given industry or any given market, he claims that 3% of the people are searching for your product or service. So, so what I would like to do is talk about how to optimize for the 97% of the people who are not actually looking for what you have to offer right now. So this is, sorry, could you go back for a second? So this is a quick picture of me and my family on vacation, and I'm going to tell you a story about my soon-to-be 5-year-old son, and we are throwing him a 5-year-old birthday party this Saturday. So I want to talk to you quickly about some of the journey that kind of happened to go from we want to throw a party to here's what the party is going to be. So next slide. So the party planning journey actually has for us had 3 phases. So the first thing we needed to do was figure out what we were going to do for the party. So, you know, being the SEO that I am, I went and said, all right, what are ideas for kids parties? That was literally the keyword that we decided to do. Next slide. And so what comes up is in the searches engine is a bunch of lists of party ideas for kids. I didn't even know there were this many party ideas for a 5-year-old, but there are. So, you know, my wife and I, we started reading through these. Could you go back? Sorry. We started reading through those lists and, you know, just to come up with some ideas. And the next slide, you'll see that, just ideas for kids party actually has some pretty good search volume, 600 searches a month in the US. So next slide. Step 2 for our idea was we read through all those lists, and we said, you know what, let's get a bounce house. So we said, didn't realize there were that many bounce houses. So we decided we were going to Google best bounce houses. So we went through again a bunch of list posts of the best bounce houses that we could get for our kid's 5-year-old birthday party. I had no idea it was this complicated, but here we are. And again, best bounce house gets 250 searches a month in the United States. So step number 3 for us was we decided we were going to get the castle bounce house because, we didn't really know what else to get. But it was one of those things where we decided, again, after doing our research, we were going to, of all the types of bounce houses, whether it was going to be a monster truck or a race car or whatever, we decided for what we needed for our size and everything like that, we needed a castle bounce house. So believe it or not, Castle Bounce House actually has 600 searches a month. I was kind of surprised to see that. But anyway, next slide. So here's a picture of the Castle Bounce House. We actually decided to rent instead of buy, but that's kind of besides the point of this little journey that we went through here. Yes, there is a lot of nuance and things like that we could go through and use some of Vicky's faceted navigation and things like that. But the point is that if we had started with, we never in a million years would we have started with like, hey, we're going to go and find a castle bounce house. We had a problem. I'm going to loosely define it as a problem that we needed to throw our kid a birthday party, and then we kind of walked through a series of events that led to the solution of we're going to go and rent a castle bounce house. Next slide. So the best way to kind of organize all of this that I found is in a content silo. And a content silo is a method of grouping related content together to establish the website's keyword-based topical areas or themes. So, and I'm going to show you an example of this in a second, but this will help you increase your site authority and rankings on both the content pages and your product pages without building additional links. This is actually empirical evidence on my part. I don't know of any real statistical evidence, but every time I've done this, and I've done this on dozens of sites, created these content silos, this is what happens. And the third thing that is link building becomes easier, because building links to content pages is much easier than building links to product pages. Again, that's just my personal experience. And so once you build links to your content pages, this will actually raise the authority of your entire silo. So your product pages will require less links in order to rank once they're in the silo, getting links, sharing the link equity with your content pages. So this is what a typical silo structure looks like. You have your website up top, and then you have your a couple silos underneath your themes, your categories, and underneath that you have your product pages or your post pages and things like that. So, and I'll show you so this I actually stole this. Sorry, I used this from rankmovers.com just to give them their due diligence. So here is sort of, if I was going back to my party planning thing here, this is sort of the way the silo could have worked on a website. You have your party store, they're a store that they sell their party supplies and all that other good stuff. So underneath that, the first silo would be party supplies, party ideas, and party food. And again, we went with party ideas, so it was like you have a magic, you could have a magic party, a bounce house party, a pool party, and a list of 37 other types of parties. And then under bounce house is where we would find our product pages of like a water slide bounce house, a castle bounce house, a monster truck bounce house, a race car bounce house, and so on and so forth. So structuring it like that, we could build our links to party ideas and distribute our link equity all the way straight through down to the product pages of a water slide, of a water slide bounce house. Next slide. So again, I want to implore you to, think about the 97% of the people who are not ready to buy your product or service, or your product right now. Sorry, because and think about the problems that they have and start there. So in my case, for instance, I would have never thought to buy a bounce house, like I said, but I did have a problem of I need to throw my 5-year-old a birthday party. So start there and then build content silos to increase your ranking and your authority and reduce, quite frankly, reduce the amount of links that you actually need to build. That's it.
I keep forgetting to unmute myself. I did it that time. Greg, thank you very much. And thank you, Vicky and Andrea, for covering a broad range of topics there. So I know we've sort of slightly overrun on time, but hopefully we can just squeeze in a few questions if you guys are okay. Carrie, have we got any from the audience that haven't already been answered in the comments?
No, I think we've answered them all for the moment.
Okay, I see there are a couple of questions about Gina and Clip. I'll just a couple of questions to try and sort of bring it all together, really. We've talked about, site architecture. We've talked about adding layers of semantic metadata and the product knowledge graph to help the search engines understand it, and then building content silos around it to support the category and product pages. So I suppose one thing that's possibly common to most e-commerce sites is internal site search. So if I can, I'd like to start for that. I mean, what would your advice be as SEOs or as commercially focused marketeers on how, as an SEO, let's say you've inherited a new e-commerce site to optimize, how should an SEO be using site search to either improve the navigation, improve the user experience, generate the right kind of content? Who wants to come in on that first? Who's brave enough? Come on, Andrea.
My suggestion is to replace it, because we're building a better one. But yeah, I mean, internal search is powerful because it provides a lot of insights on how the user is willing to move inside your site. And if it's resorting to the search, you might have failed with the main navigation, that user. Besides the fact that most of the e-commerce internal search doesn't really work as it should, most probably in these logs, you can find interesting facets, as Vicky was explaining, that could be brought into the mega menu or the main navigation. So one thing is like looking at the logs. That's one suggestion. The other one is that, we usually rely on Google because Google handles the context of the user and understand, who the searcher is and where the search is coming from, and what is the intention behind it. As Greg explained, the customer journey is so broad that and Google does an excellent job in kind of understanding the search intent. Now, when Google does this, of course, it does take its own stake, right? So either we pay Google or we try to rank higher, but we can kind of tap into broader terms and even maybe advertise for broader terms, and then drag the user inside the site, and then from there build an experience that will drill down to the various products that we offer. So internal search is also a way for promoting a broader category, and then kind of let the user play with your catalog from within your site, rather than as opposite to let Google do the heavy lifting for you, which in any case is going to cost you money.
Okay, all right, great. Vicky, Greg, anything to add to that?
I think Andreas has kind of nailed it, really. The only thing I would say, probably not really in addition to, is help understand where there's like weaknesses in your website taxonomy, and then you can make a judgment call on whether that's because you need to raise it up into the mega menu, faceted navigation, or just actually because it's just too deep within the web architecture, you need to elevate it through maybe internal links. But it can also provide some ideas around content gaps, and then it can lead into, do you need more kind of guide content, or inspirational content. So it both on the technical and on the content side of things, it can be used.
All right, perfect. You see, you broke up just a little bit. I think your internet connection was coming and going, but I think you were saying basically look first, strengths and weaknesses in your taxonomy, and then obviously you could decide how to promote, maybe create new facets, put stuff in the site mega menu, so on and so forth. Okay, perfect.
Yeah. And then also content gaps as well. I don't know if you got that.
Gaps. Yeah, and definitely in content gaps. Greg, anything to add to
that? No, actually, I think Vicky and Andrea nailed it. If I was going to answer that, I pretty much would have said you go back and refer to Vicky's slides and do what she just talked about.
I'm just building on that then. So I've been looking and searching a lot for bras recently this week. I hope my wife doesn't look at my search history after Vicky's presentation, and looking at some of our keyword suggestion APIs, and I've learned all about racerbacks and extenders and all these kind of things that didn't know existed. But a good example for you, I've got two examples. So bra for low cut dress, Google shows lots of articles and the odd category page. But then plus size bra for low cut dress, Google shows the opposite, lots of category pages and then an article or two. And so my question really is, to what extent can a better search experience, like e-commerce search experience that Andrea was sort of showing us, actually alter what Google shows? Because for me, it's not showing any article pages for plus size bra for low cut dress, because there's nothing that covers that topic, that niche. It just, so it knows that people want a window shop, so it's reverting to showing category pages. And I just wonder what that might mean for SEOs in terms of content ingestion. You showed us some sort of cool AI technology there, Andrea. I mean, should we be processing all our images in a different way? So through machine learning, we can embed the fact that this is a flowery shirt, or it's got a geometric pattern, or it's, Hawaiian, or whatever it might be, without actually having to edit and enhance the metadata that comes from the product suppliers.
I think there are two levels that we should take into account as SEO, and I want to also answer to Jenny that Jenny Hill is asking how do we define neural search. So there are really two levels. One level is build the relationship. If I publish an image or a video on the blog that talks about a product, I want that video and that image to refer back to the unique ID of the product. I want to let the machine understand quickly that that can be used in whatever context I'm not aware of, I might not be aware of, that would fit. Because the searcher will go through a journey that it's so different one to another. So it's so complicated to say, is this gonna be transactional or informational? Well, it depends, as most of this SEO would say, because it depends on the context. Now, the best thing that we can do is build this relationship, which we currently don't have, okay? Because if we look at a landing page, in most websites, rarely it connects well with the service that has been, advertised on that landing page. And that's really basic. But then, as you said, we might have an image or an image inventory that should be connected to, a category. And we rarely do this relationship. The other level is that, of course, we are getting into this AI first world where, things are becoming more conversational. So we shouldn't focus much on other than relationship and the quality of the content that we publish. That's going to be the focus, because when I employ neural search, and neural search is basically a way to go beyond the symbolic search that we've been using for several years when searching by keywords. Now, neural search uses embeddings, so it transforms a textual raw data in textual format or raw data in image format into a structure that has semantic relevance. Now, it means that when I pass the image, then I'm using OpenAI's clip that has been trained with a pair of text and images to learn that is a floral dress, and that it's going to look into similar products that have images with floral dress. So the first point is, if I don't have a catalog with rich of images, I'm gonna fail. So if I have opportunity of adding a few more images to these products because I have them on the blog, well, we should be able to do it. And we don't need to do it all in the product page because the search engine is capable of traversing, the different surfaces.
But also if I'm writing blogs, so if I'm writing a blog about, I don't know, the best plus size bras for low cut dresses, I could be with each product referencing the unique URI, saying same as product, or I don't know, I mean, probably not an example of bras, but I don't know, Hoovers or something is also same as or is a spare part of, and using that kind of schema markup to.
This is fundamental. That's the graph. That's
Gotcha.
The graph that you need to build, because that would allow people building an internal search like the one that we've seen, or Google, to connect the two pieces. And then based on the content, decide if they need that image or not.
Yeah.
It's not up to us to decide if that image would fit, because as we saw in Greg's customer journey, I mean, he went through different steps, but it's pretty much unpredictable, the type of steps that he made. But we want to prepare for all these different variations by joining pieces with a graph that connects together the editorial and the product.
Okay, perfect. I think I'm going to have to pause it there. We've sort of gone to 45 minutes. We normally sort of go to half an hour, but you can tell we could all talk about this all day and night. And there's some really interesting concepts there as we kind of look at everything that we've discussed today. So I'm sure if any of our viewers out there have more questions, they know how to find everybody. So Andrea, Greg and Vicky, I'd just like to say thank you again once again. It's been great to have you on. If you like to contact them, you can see their Twitter handles there on the screen in front of you. Thanks so much for all your hard work and effort. And just over to Carrie, just to let us know when we'll be back again.
Thanks, Lawrence.
Thank you.
We just have one more question for Greg. If we just do that really quickly in the chat. What is the difference between silos and content clusters? And does creating a silo include URL structure or just internal linking?
So I'll answer this really quick, and then Vicky, whoever answered that, Greg at contentcopy.com, just shoot me an email and I'll give you a better answer. But basically, they accomplish very similar things in that they help distribute link equity and things like that. A content cluster is basically you start with a long pillar page. So in Lawrence's bra scenario, it might be like 101 plus size bra options or something like that. And then you link to each of your plus size bra options from that pillar page. In a silo, it stems more from like you're putting everything into a category under a category page, or a so for instance, it would be like store.com/bras/plus size bra. That kind of deal is more of like a silo. So if you need any, Greg at contentcopy.com, I wanted to keep that as short as possible.
Thanks,
That
Greg.
makes sense. Yep.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. And yeah, that's all we have time for. We can take that back up on Twitter. So thank you guys, and we'll see you in September on the 30th at 4 p.m.
Thank you all so very
Thank
much.
you.
I'll speak to you all again soon. Thanks a lot.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Ciao, ciao.